Bengals Super Bowl chances rest on his right foot. The kick is up. It is good!
Today, Bengal fans, here we gather, talking football back for year 5. We're covering all things Who Dey Nation. We're glad you joined us here tonight. Special guests, past and present players. You never know who you might see. One thing that's for sure, it's all things Bengals. And it all goes back to charity. We at Talking Football want to thank you for joining us for the show tonight. By the fans, for the fans, until the very end. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends. A lot of stuff to talk about tonight. We got our guy Tony Pike coming on tonight. A lot of stuff to get through with Tony. James, time we got a very big announcement after Tony gets off the line here with us. We got a very big announcement tonight for everybody. So looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, appreciate everyone joining us. Appreciate Tony joining us. Apologize about the glare on my glasses today. I have no idea what's going on. Worked on that for 5 minutes before, but you can see my screen and look forward to the announcement. It's been an interesting 2 weeks of Bengals free agency. We'll dive into that a little bit with Tony tonight, and appreciate everyone that's joined us. Again, if you have comments or questions, let us know. Put those in the chat, and we'll get those up for Tony. Tom?
Yeah, no, noteworthy week, some big signings, some things that people said the Bengals couldn't do. And on the other hand, some things we were counting on to happen have not happened. So we will get into all of that and more tonight.
Tom, go ahead. And we got Tony in the waiting room right now. We thank Tony for coming out here last week. He had some things, family issues he had to deal with, but we appreciate Tony being back on with us tonight. So Tom, go ahead and do the introduction. I guess before we do that real quick, I'm trying to find that picture I just found here real quick. So Tony would have looked a hell of a lot better with this uniform on, on game days. But unfortunately got drafted by Carolina and had an opportunity late with our Bengals, man. But if nobody knows who Tony Pike is, you will tonight, man. He's a good guy.
Well, to kick us off tonight, he was a high school football legend here in Cincinnati, out of Reading High School, and then went to the University of Cincinnati, where he quarterbacked the single, I think, biggest and most exciting play in UC history, securing a undefeated regular season with a clutch TD late against Pitt to Armand Benz. Went to the NFL with the Carolina Panthers, and we're very thankful to have him here tonight. You can find him anymore noon to 3s on WCKY ESPN 1530 with, the man that really has molded him into a broadcasting legend, our good friend Austin Elmore. He looks at as a mentor, and I'm sure he'll touch on that as well. But a big thank you for him making time for us tonight. Welcome, Tony Pike.
Man, did Austin write that?
We each get 20.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I'm excited to join you guys. It's crazy that it's March 23rd and it feels like training camp should already be here because of everything that has happened in this off season. But it's an exciting time.
Yeah, thanks for being with us, Tony. We appreciate it, buddy. A lot of stuff to get to tonight. A lot of stuff in free agency to talk about, good and some questionable things here. So, Tom, get us kicked off right quick if you could, bud.
Yeah, Tony, you mentioned it feels like it should be training camp. It feels like free agency has been here for about 3 months. There's been the good, the not so good, and the what if with the Bengals and free agency so far. I guess we'll start out with the good. The national media and, we call them the national haters, said there'd be no way the Bengals could get back their 2-star wide receivers. And there's been talk about the structure of the contract, but they do. Do you see having those two guys working with Joe Burrow as the core of a team that can make a Super Bowl run and win it?
I do. Look, any given game day, whether that's Thursday, Sunday, Monday, whenever they're going to play NFL games, you have the opportunity to roll out there with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T Higgins. You can win games, and I think it's important in that sense to get those guys together. I think a big part of last year's slow start was distractions, and by getting these done in March, you're going to avoid a lot of those off-season distractions. I know there are other things that this club still needs to do, but they've taken a big step in eliminating distractions. They've changed the mold and how they operate as a franchise. They've appeased their franchise quarterback, Joe Burrow, which is a really good thing. But, the more you dive into what this offseason is for the Cincinnati Bengals and what they have and have not done, they assured that they're going to be able to be explosive. And as this goes on, it comes back to me that I don't think within those walls of the organization they view themselves as very far off. A couple kicks that go their way last year, a couple late game blunders that go their way, and they're a team that nobody wants to play in the playoffs. I know the defense has to be better, but I can't imagine the lack of sleep that defensive coordinators and opposing defenses will be getting, trying to game plan and prepare for what this Bengals offense is going to be.
James?
Tony, appreciate you joining us. Always listen to you in the afternoons with Audie there on 1530. A lot of our listeners are from out of town, so if you don't have to be local to Cincy, iHeartRadio is a great invention. Tell the ALEXA to play it. I'm not going to say it or else it's going to turn on, but appreciate what you guys do and having a local talk show on the afternoon. But already in the conversation, you mentioned locking up T and Trey, but kind of the last piece of that puzzle here this offseason is the Trey Hendrickson situation. If you had the golden goggles to see what's going to happen, is it a given that Trey will be back, knowing his agents had a couple weeks to try to work out a deal?
Yeah, I think a couple different dynamics make it feel like that. One, I think the Bengals did a great job in letting him go and shop himself, because that always helps the Bengals now in negotiating when they weren't able to get what they were hoping to get in return for Trey Hendrickson. Another avenue of this is, three of those four that Joe Burrow mentioned are in the clubhouse already: Mike Gesicki, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. I don't think they would just do 3 out of the 4. They know the importance of getting a Trey Hendrickson deal done. Now I think it's how creative can you get? I've seen people float out there, put them on a 1-year deal and make it $30 million this year and then worry about 2026 down the road, kick the can down the road a little bit. I know Trey wants to be established. I know he wants to plant roots, and I know family is important to him and having that backing. So I certainly understand his side of things. But I think everything that's happened since Trey Hendrickson and his agent kind of made their demands, I think it's all worked in the Bengals' favor up to this point. You could argue the Myles Garrett contract. You could argue Danielle Hunter and what he's getting paid. But I think the Bengals are holding the power in this one. And I think at the end of the day, Trey Hendrickson's back on the Bengals defense. What I think is interesting with Trey, under Lou Anarumo, he was a one-side guy. Here's where he's going to line up. This is where he's going to rush. Under Al Golden, can they get Trey Hendrickson back and move him around? Can that add to the defense, moving him inside, moving him outside? I think there's a lot of excitement if you can get him back sooner rather than later and attack everything else you need and let Al Golden really go to work with this defense.
Yeah, Tony, let's kind of go to that guard position on offense right now. Obviously, it's a topic you guys are hitting on this every day, all day, every day on the show. Obviously, it was a weak spot in our offensive line. I know they just picked up a guard. What do you see happening there at the guard position?
I think the recent pickup is more of a rotational safety measure type of play because you don't want to get stuck. You're going to need depth on the offensive line. I still think it's the biggest question mark for me. And I know they can attack it in the draft, but Brandon Sheriff still being out there to me is the one that's looming over everyone's head. I would assume you'd want to come in and play and have a chance to get to a Super Bowl towards the end of your career. But you did look at the stats. I can say this. If you've got a good to above average center, which the Bengals do in Ted Karras, if you've got 2 really good tackles, you can hide average guard play. You don't have to be an excellent guard if you've got a good center and a good tackle around you. And I think that's an important part about the evaluation process is, you don't need the top layer guard. Would everyone in Cincinnati love it? Absolutely. This team has a lot of other things they need to address. But with Karras, Mims, and Orlando Brown Jr., and you could throw Cody Ford in the mix because I think he's done well for himself. That's still, to me, the glaring hole, because there's one thing that pushes this train off the tracks going forward, and that's Joe Burrow taking more of those unnecessary hits. There were way too many times last year where I'm watching the game and I see a pass completed, and you're holding your breath as a fan until the camera pans back so you can see Joe Burrow getting up off the turf. I love the Houdini aspect of Joe Burrow. I love the fact of what he's able to do and create. But at the end of the day, you want him being a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more protected. But make no mistake, a good center, 2 good tackles can alleviate a lot of the problems at guard as well.
But Tony, there's definitely some guys out there in free agency right now that are massive upgrades from where we're at. I don't know what's going on and behind closed doors there, but I'm hoping they can sneak in 1 or 2 of these guys.
I wonder too. Brandon Sheriff, to me, like I said, that's the guy. And there wasn't the desire in Mekhi Becton. Tevin Jenkins kind of wasn't there as well. But I don't know if Sheriff is he contemplating retirement. I don't know if that's what the holdup is, because the guard market is set. You know what guards are getting paid at the NFL level. I'm sure you could find a way in a 1-year type of deal to get something done. I guess that's my biggest holdup. What is at this point? What's the mindset? Is he thinking about the end of the career? Does he want to make one more run? And if so, what better scenario than Joe Burrow at quarterback, an unbelievable skill set, and I think one of the biggest improvements from an NFL level, Chase Brown, going to be at running back. I mean, it's going to be a favorable job for a guard to come in here around this offense.
Tony, without being said here, like, this would be an offense you'd love to be the quarterback of, I'm sure, Tony, right?
Absolutely. I think the Chase Brown dynamic is bigger than what maybe we've talked about up to this point, because the play action and the pressure it just takes off of a quarterback. I wouldn't venture to think and diving into the X and O's of it. Everything in the NFL, everything in football is about the box and a numbers game. And if a defense is going to bring one more hat into the box, that leaves you vulnerable on the outside. If not, you play 2 safeties back. 90% of the time, you're going to get 2 safety looks if you're the Bengals. That should be feasting for Chase Brown. And if that happens, that should be feasting for Mike Gesicki. It should be feasting in the play action game. And then that opens the shots up down the field. They don't have a weakness from a skill set. You could get picky and say, okay, well, let's go all in. Let's go get a wide receiver number 3, a Tyler Lockett type player at the end of his career. Then no one is stopping this offense. But I really do. It's such an envious job that Joe Burrow has, and Joe Burrow is great in his own sense. But the guys he's throwing to, man, they're horses. And one of the best things about quarterback, get them the ball early and let them do what they do best. Yards after the catch is a quarterback's best friend, and they got guys all over the field that can do that.
Yeah. Tom?
Tony, flipping to the other side of the ball, a bugaboo for this franchise from the get-go has been the pass rush. And we've talked about Trey, but the other stations along the line. Chris Jenkins played hurt all of last year. He played with one arm. We've got some new signings. What do you think needs to change? Was it the scheme?
I think the biggest thing, and I don't know for sure. I just think at times the personnel didn't match the scheme over the last couple of years. I think you have guys that in free agency or the draft, you say, man, it's a good athlete, or that's a good piece. And then it didn't really fit the scheme that they were trying to produce. I think there are a couple things at play. And I was a part of this when I was at UC, a coaching change. There are a lot of times, especially with young players that come into the NFL, and for whatever reason, their fault or not, they just get buried on the depth chart, or they don't feel like they're getting the chances that they should. Mark D'Antonio was my coach at UC. He recruited me. If Mark D'Antonio was the coach for 5 years when I was at UC, I probably never get the opportunity that I had. Brian Kelly comes in. It's a new scheme. It's a new fit. And it's reinvigorating for a lot of those players. So I expect Myles Murphy, Joseph Osai, McKinley Jackson, the guys, Chris Jenkins, even if they can get Trey Hendrickson back, there's just a refreshing piece around a new voice. And that's not a knock on Lou Anarumo. It's just sometimes there are better fits in the clubhouse. So, the talent and the athleticism is there from the back end up, from safety to corner to linebacker. They still got to make a decision on Jermaine Pratt. But I legitimately, I truly believe, one, they're better in the run than they were when the season ended to defend the run. And I think a change and a fresh start for some of these guys is what they're banking on the defensive side of the ball. It obviously still needs work between now and training camp.
Looking at the back end of that, you said, the defensive backs. At cornerback, we can either be really rich or we could be really poor. Our big three, all have a little bit of questions. DJ Turner, we're looking for him to get that consistency. We've seen the flashes of brilliance, but we need the consistency. With Dax Hill, we don't know if he's going to play outside or inside where he played at Michigan. I mean, the poor guy, this will be, another position change potentially for him. He's also coming off a knee injury, which we're hearing all good things about. But, where are you going to put him and how comfortable is he going to be? Cam Taylor-Britt, maybe a little more attention to detail and technique and, unfortunately, coming in shape. Are you worried about the cornerback position? Do we need to go looking on the waiver wire or early in the draft for one?
They're never afraid to take a corner early in the draft here in Cincinnati. We know that. I love my guy Charlie Goldsmith, and I was listening to Charlie last week, and Charlie said it's funny because if you think right now what the strength of the defense is, it would be the secondary, and that's a position last year where everyone at one point got benched. I mean, they were rotating guys in and out. Guys were having disappointing seasons. I know that Chidobe Awuzie has been let go. I don't know if that's it. Like there are options out there, but if the goal is a Super Bowl, and when you re-sign the players that you did, the goal is the Super Bowl, you either have to be above average in the secondary or you've got to be able to get after the passer, because those two things don't mesh. You could be good in the secondary, but if you can't pressure the quarterback and apply pressure, you can't cover forever. So you either better be locked down, Darrelle Revis Island type players on the back end, or you better be able to get after the quarterback. There was no other ringing endorsement for that than what we saw in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes looked pedestrian because of that pass rush for the Philadelphia Eagles. So it still holds true. You got to protect the quarterback. You got to get after the quarterback. And if you can't do that, then you need to make sure you're secure on the back end. And while I think they take steps forward, this secondary was not good enough to be that last year. And I think that kind of goes into this pot of challenges that Al Golden is going to be walking into here in year one.
James?
Tony, you talked about your coaching change at UC, going from Mark D'Antonio to Brian Kelly. We talked about Al Golden coming in on defense, but on the offensive side, we saw Scott Peters come in for Frank Pollock. What do you expect with his coaching style versus what we've seen with Frank? And is it a matter of scheme with maybe making Volson a better left guard or Cody Ford sliding the right guard and having him more than serviceable there along the offensive line?
Yeah, every offensive line coach is going to have some type of glass eater mentality. I know that's the Frank Pollock glass eater mentality, but every offensive line coach that I've ever met is intense. That stays true on the offensive line. But a younger coach, I think in today's NFL, gets across sometimes at different positions better to players. And you have a Marius Mims who you're molding and developing at a very key stage in his career. Cordell Volson, maybe that's one of the guys that everyone puts away, and then a new coach, new scenery, new scheme, maybe that changes it up as well. But the thing that this offense needs, and this starts on the offensive line, it goes to Dan Pitcher, it goes to Zach Taylor, anyone involved on offense, they just have to have that scheme set on who they want to be. I think too many times the last couple of years, I found myself asking, what is the identity? What is the identity of what they want to be? Because there are games where Chase Brown would get, 20, 25 carries, and you go, okay, they're a physical, punchy in the mouth type of identity team. And then there's games where Burrow's throwing it 50 times. And the game is going to dictate that. What your defense is doing is going to dictate that. But you want to be known for something up front. You want to have that chip on your shoulder of, we're going to wear you out. This is going to be a war. And by the time this war is over, you're going to be on the other end of it. You're going to be wishing that this game was over. You don't want to keep going. You don't want to keep playing because you take a team's will. And I think that's what you're trying to get on the offensive line. I think you're trying to play with an edge because you're around greatness. You don't have the pressure of having to be one of the top 3 offensive lines in the NFL. Can you be a top 16 offense offensive line in the NFL. And if you do, you're going to have an offense that's going to break all kinds of records in this league.
Jimmy?
James, when you get to, I think there's a couple viewer questions. Brian from Indiana here, with P. Ryan back, is Moss being shown the door here? What's the situation there in your opinion?
For me, it is. You know, but I don't think I just think that's Chase Brown who's going to get the lion's share. I mean, if you remember, it's such an obscure stat, but I think against the Patriots, he had 2 or 4 carries. Chase Brown did in that game, and it completely switched. And Zach Moss, I thought, was going to be able to do some good things for him, but there's a explosion that happens when Chase Brown touches the ball where he could take it the distance every single time. And I think with the return of P. Ryan, we've already seen on this team under this coach how big P. Ryan has been. You think of some of the biggest moments in the last couple of years when he was here, he was in the game. He was in the game on short yardage situations. He was in the game on 2-minute situations. Any big pass protection situation. You saw the play he had with the Kansas City Chiefs late in the year. To me, it would be the writing on the wall. You know, I don't think it's going to be a position that is going to be able to dictate and use up a ton of roster spots unless it's a special teams advantage, which I don't think you're going to get a ton of from Zach Moss. But I think you're in a good spot with Chase Brown and Samaje Perine.
Yeah, Tony, just talk about Evan McPherson, right? I mean, everybody's talking about a lot of different things here, but I think everybody's expecting Evan to get back to form, right? He had a little bit of an off year last year. Just talk about Evan McPherson a little bit for us.
Yeah, I don't think it should be understated, the importance of the snap to the hold to the kick. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for Evan McPherson, but it's something when you watch it at a high level and you watch how much it's practiced and how much these guys do it in the offseason and how it has to be meticulous every single time. You know, Evan came into this league and was lucky because he walked into a very good situation at snapper and holder. And now that's been rotating a little bit. And I do think that makes a little bit of a difference. But this is a game and it's a sport where confidence it's the top. And for kickers, you know, you think of a quarterback, if I throw an interception, how many more chances am I going to get in that game to come out and throw a completion or throw a big touchdown? Or if I miss a tackle, I get to go back out there. You miss one kick as a kicker, now you're the scapegoat. And mentally, in today's world with social media and a lot of the voices that are behind some of these social media accounts that feel like they can say and attack anyone they want, it's a crazy world. And the stress that puts on a player and the confidence that's taken away. I went to practices. I went to training camp every day last year. He barely misses. He barely misses. So he to me is still a weapon. Like any player, you want to see some good things happen. You want to see that confidence come back because, like I said earlier, I don't know how much they're banking on when you look at this a season as a whole. If 1 or 2 kicks go the Bengals' way, or 1 or 2 of those finishes or those 10-point leads go the Bengals' way, name a team that wanted to play this team in the playoffs. And I think Evan McPherson plays a role in that. But I don't ever think it was a question inside those walls at Paycor of, is he the guy going forward? I think there's a lot of confidence in Evan McPherson. And I think there should be, and I think he comes back in a big way.
Good. Tony, you have time for a couple more for you? A couple of viewer questions real quick?
Yeah.
I'll just throw in one from Lisa, talking about that third wide receiver spot. Who do you project taking charge there? Does Yoshi take that step?
Or do you look at Mike G as the third receiver and Yoshi's 4?
I think if the season were to start today, Mike Gesicki's the third receiver. But it's a position that I'd be envious of. Because if you think of the grand scheme of things, you are going to be getting the other team's 4th best cover guy on a daily basis, on a play-by-play basis. So you're not – wide receiver 3 for you, the Bengals, is not being asked to break down a bunch of coverages. He's not being asked to beat double teams. Go beat one of the worst cover guys on the other team because so much attention is going to have to go around you. I think it's a unique option. I think Yoshi had an opportunity last year to play a lot more, and he was certainly a red zone weapon. But there was a chunk of the season where he wasn't as big of a factor. I wish I could say that I had the confidence in Jermaine Burton at this point, but I don't. I don't know what that looks like. Or is a free agent out there that makes sense. Like I said, I don't know what the price tag is going to look like. Tyler Lockett has been one of my favorite players to watch over the years, and I know he's at the latter part of his career. But if I'm a free agent wide receiver, what situation gives me the best opportunity to succeed? it would be playing alongside T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Mike Gesicki, and with Joe Burrow throwing me passes. So I think it's actually a position they could try to look at bringing in a guy for a year to fill up wide receiver 3. And then maybe if there's a guy with one of those 6 draft picks that they wanted to take a flyer on, or someone falls into their lap, then albeit. But I think that wide receiver 3 is completely up in the air from a draft, free agent to someone in-house situation already.
Got it. Let's hit a couple more here. Tom, you go ahead and hit one real quick.
You mean a viewer question or
whatever? Yeah, you're one from you.
Dealer's choice.
The change again at defensive coordinator. In your view, and like you said, you're down there every day during camp and so forth, and so many of the practices. He's somewhat familiar with some of the guys, Al Golden.
Yeah.
But are we looking at a severe adjustment period? Is this the year we're going to hear, well, it's a new defensive scheme. The guys didn't know where to line up on that play, or they didn't know how to react quickly to the adjustment, the offense, the look the offense was making? Or do you think they'll snap in pretty much? It's also more of a change because we're going to a 4-3.
Yeah. I think for a couple things with Al Golden, you're not asked, again, to come in and have the top 10 defense in the National Football League. You just don't want to be one of the worst defenses in the National Football League. I don't think this will be an offseason where we hear Zach Taylor saying, hey, we're going to let these guys go after a day of workouts. I think they're going to use all the offseason programs that are in place, because while it might not be a ton of new stuff, terminology is always a tough point to get over. He was fantastic at Notre Dame, and he's been fantastic at developing. And the more you're around guys, the more you have a chance to develop. He's watching a ton of tape, I'm sure, right now. But what needs to be decided from a defensive coordinator standpoint is your identity, as we've talked about on the offensive side of the ball. But I've seen things that happen in these scenarios go both ways. I've seen a defensive coordinator come in and everything kind of meshes together and the personnel fits perfect, and then you can get really creative in the defense. Or I've seen situations where with a new coordinator, maybe you dumb it down in year one. You don't have as much in, because the greatest tool you can have is confidence. And if you've got guys out there that are thinking, it's slowing them down. The more you think, the more things slow. The more you're just playing fast because you know what you're going to do, the more you're flying around and making plays. So I think that's a huge part of the evaluation process. Any new system, year one, there's a lot of learning, and you're growing as you go. Year two, they use that term, you kind of get the keys to the car, and then you get to add more and more and more. So I'm interested as the offseason gets more underway. Is it something where it feels like they're just throwing a bunch of different things in there, or does it feel like it's something where they're keeping things a little bit more basic and allowing guys to go play fast and confident?
Tony, we're a month and 1 day away from the draft in Green Bay. If you were in Duke Tobin's shoes with our first round pick, are you simply looking at best player available? Are you saying, hey, we need a defensive end or defensive tackle? Again, those trenches. Yeah. What are you doing if you're wearing Duke Tobin's hat there a month and a day from today in Green Bay? 17
for me is trenches. It is the best guard or the best edge rusher available, in my opinion, because I'm living off the Super Bowl and what I watched, and Philly was so impressive. They dominated. I mean, Kansas City's a respected defensive front, and Philly did whatever they want offensively. And defensively, Mahomes, again, he looked like an average quarterback because he didn't have a chance. So I know that there's spots on this roster that need to be tweaked and that needs to get an influx of young talent that you can mold, and you could use those rookie deals and find starters. But I think you have to go and get the best pass protector that can slide in at guard, ideally next to go out and get Brandon Sheriff, and now you need one spot filled, or you find a way to get your pass rush better. They addressed the run defense already, in my opinion, with the moves they've made in the offseason. You got to find ways to make the quarterback uncomfortable. And that's not always – edge rushers have the flashy stats, right, all the sacks. I would rather play against a great edge rusher than a great interior player as a quarterback, because if I can't step up into the pocket and see what I'm doing or drive into a throw, that makes me uncomfortable. I can move up and get out if I got an edge rusher that I'm keying on. If the pressure's coming from the middle, especially as you mentioned in a 4-3 defense, That's harder to navigate for a quarterback if their guard or center is sitting in their lap. So it doesn't have to be edge rusher, but it needs to be someone that's going to come make this pass rush better.
Yeah, good point. We'll hit you with the last question here and make it a viewer question. So, Coach Pike, man, what would you do here, man? Right, we've been getting off to slow starts every year. It's really kind of bit us in the butt here at the end of the season, getting into the playoffs. So, kind of, it sounds like Zach may be changing the approach this year, but kind of your thoughts on that on that situation.
You know, I commend Zach because I thought last year's training camp was physical. And I had thought the previous couple training camps, it almost felt like a country club at times. They were in and out. They weren't in full pads a bunch. They had the 2 joint practices this year. They were it was just visible. You go down to practices. They were thudding more. They were moving more. They were staying out there longer. I think there was a concerted effort last year to make training camp more intense and more physical to avoid the slow start. Unfortunately, I think that some of what was going on in the locker room just was a lot for these guys. It became a distraction. The Jamar Chase was, that every time he was in the locker room, there's 30 cameras there, and that's all anyone wants to talk about. And as players, that can wear on you no matter how good the culture in the locker room is. So for me, utilize all the offseason, utilize all the OTAs, all the mini camps that you can. The training camp needs to be physical. But I think the front office can help as well by eliminating any distractions. I don't want Trey Hendrickson to get to camp and be unhappy, because then we've got to ask questions we don't want to ask instead of just football. Focus on that, and I think they start faster with the core group they have.
Gotcha. Well, Tony, we appreciate.
Real quick,
go ahead, John.
Yeah, real quick. Your broadcast partner, Austin.
Yes.
It's not necessarily something that we endorse or are too interested in, but every time we've had him on, he spends a lot of the time we have with him talking about what's burning next to him, and that is his collection of scented candles. Now, we notice, even though being an ex-UC star and an NFL player, you have no scented candle around. Is this something we should be a little concerned about with Austin, or respect his hobbies, or
I would. Well, see, so I do this in my basement, and this is like I've got a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 9-month-old. So this is like my space. So I don't trust myself lighting a candle down here and then leaving it burning or something bad happens. I got a lot of things I've collected in this basement. So, as I get older, I've shied away for the candles a little bit more. I think the plugins are a nice touch that keeps the area smelling nice all the time. So I haven't got an invite to Austin's place yet. If I did, it would probably be a gift that I would bring. He's got like the lighting behind it. He posts pictures of his TV. He's got like the mood lighting behind it. He must be a big aura guy in making sure that the lighting is perfect, along with the scents.
Oh, there's our clip for the night. All the good stuff you gave us. We're going to use that one as the clip. But
there you go.
Make sure if you're not following Tony in Austin, these guys, just check them out. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube right now, make sure you tune in and check out Tony. Follow him on our social media platforms. And not only was Tony a hell of a football player, I fortunately got to spend some time with Tony at a charity softball event this past year. Tony can rate now, so don't try to throw a high tide on him, because he'll take a yard, man. So
I'm swinging for the fences at this point. I don't know how many swings I got left, so I'm going to make the most out of all of them.
Tony, man, we appreciate you so much for spending time with us, man. You're a Cincinnati radio legend, brother, and a UC football legend. We appreciate you being with us tonight, bud.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Who day, Tony?
Tony, appreciate it.
Hey, bud.
All righty.
That's the one clip, man. The damn candles, Tom. Gosh.
And again, if you don't have to be local, Cincy 360, great show. And, in Cincinnati, we've gone a long time without a local early afternoon sports show. So me living in Indianapolis and able to go to iHeartRadio and listen is a lot of fun. So definitely do that, even if you're driving, working from home, whatever. Tony, Austin, and then of course our buddy Mo Aker comes on after that. So be sure to check it out and appreciate Tony. I believe that's his first time. 5 years? First time on the show? Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think that's the first time Tony's
We've come
been on
close
with
a
us.
couple times, and I think for scheduling reasons, it just fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a couple things before we get into our major announcement here, guys. So we have a major announcement. Give us a couple minutes. We'll hit on that. But let's talk about next Sunday, guys. We have a very special guest we've been working on right now. Plan to be with us next Sunday night is Takeo Spikes, former Bengals first-round draft pick with Brian Simmons that year. Right, Tom? I can't remember what year that was, 96,
Yes.
97, something like that.
That would have been, let's see, 98.
I knew it was mid-late 90s there. So Takeo Spikes will be joining us. Make sure, if you're watching right now, we're having connection issues with our main Facebook page from our show. But if you're watching right now on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button for us. Make sure you subscribe. They'll send you notifications when we have shows scheduled, that type of thing. That way you can save it. We've not really pushed that conversation real well, but we have a boatload of people that watch on YouTube, but just not a ton of those folks are actually subscribers to the channel. So make sure you save it, subscribe, and be with us next Sunday night for Takeo Spikes. Looking forward to that.
So go ahead, Jimmy. This isn't even staged, but this is a perfect segue here from Andrew, and I see Lisa's in the chat, so it's perfect timing that she's here. So let's go ahead and talk about Andrew's question.
Yeah. So if everybody remembers, Jungle Jam last year, we started off with Jungle to the Hall. And the whole goal around Jungle to the Hall 2020-21, we went up to Canton at the front door. We filled up an entire event tent with Bengal fans. Willie Anderson showed up. Our goal was to get as much local and national attention as we could around our Bengal legends that we felt that should be in the Hall of Fame. And I think because of that step that we took, there was all kinds of national media picking up. Why was there only one Bengal player in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Since then, the NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, has added Ken Riley. Willie Anderson and Ken Anderson are this close right now. Jeff Hobson, the Cincinnati Bengals, are working their tails off to make this happen. I truly believe the fan aspect of this thing is important. It has really helped push this that much further, this topic across the country. So every year we've grown that. Last year we decided, we're going to continue to do Jungle to the Hall, but we're going to make it part of a big fan festival. So last year was our first year ever doing Jungle Jam with Jungle to the Hall as a piece of that. And we did it at Megacourt in Newport last year. We had about 3,000 people, sold the event out. We had 30, 40 different players come. It was an amazing, if you were there, you had a great time. We took a huge leap of faith doing this. We spent a lot of money up front to make this happen. We raised $40,000 for local charities last year. We cut a check for $25,000 to Joe Burrow Foundation, $10,000 to Ken Anderson Alliance. There was Munoz Foundation, Volson's Foundation. There was other foundations that benefited from that as well. We want to grow that this year. And I'll stop there. James, take it and kind of build.
You're on a roll. Keep going. That's a perfect segue. And again, it all started with Jungle to the Hall during COVID when we were in the tent to the east side of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it's just evolved. We had a Jungle to the Hall at Banks in downtown Cincy, at another local establishment in downtown Cincy, and last year was, as you mentioned, certainly a leap of faith. But as Bengals fans, you can see right here on the screen, by the fans, for the fans, in the 50-plus years of Bengals professional franchise, a fan fest had never been put together. So we discussed amongst us what's the next evolution to Jungle to the Hall, and how can we get more recognition for the players, more people, and just a summer gathering. I feel like we all have a little separation anxiety. We see everybody in the fall, and then we don't see them again till the fall of the following year. So put it together. It went way better than any of us could have imagined, and we were trying to do some new things this year. Obviously, off the success of last year, some people came and talked and wanted to be involved. So as you can see under my name, the date will be July 19th, which is actually the same weekend that we had it last year. It will be close. And Jimmy, go ahead and talk about the particulars.
Yeah, so July 19th is the date, and it will be at Newport on the Levee, not Megacorp. It will be at Newport on the Levee. So James and Tom and some of the other guys are going down tomorrow to the levee and kind of working out the final details and plans with the levee tomorrow. So go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Jimmy, the spot we're using, is that not the same spot that WXIX Channel 19 does their weekly Bengals show during the season?
Yeah, but we're going to have the entire levee. We're going to have the entire levee.
Right, but I mean, it's so for those that are used to going down there, it's right there.
Yep. So again, save the date. It's at Newport on the Levee, July 19th. We will have tickets up, and we're going to have multiple VIP events, and I'll let James talk about that here in a minute. But the VIP event that we had last year sold out within like an hour. So let's go through some of the players, guys. Now remember last year we had players that got stuck out of town, like TJ Hushmanzada. If you remember the airline issues, there was all the technology, all the stuff that shut down, and TJ got stuck on the West Coast, couldn't come out. We've only been contacting players for the last couple of days. We got a pretty impressive list, some names that we had last year and some new names, and we'll continue to add to the list.
Before you talk about that list, Jimmy, let's go back, because obviously it's going to be a little bit different format. We're in Newport on the Levee's open to the public. Obviously, there's businesses there. So looking at it from a 30,000-foot view, Jungle Jam 2, which is also Jungle to the Hall 5, will be free to attend. And what that will get you is our 2025 season preview, and that'll get you also access to the Jungle to the Hall presentation. We will have vendors like last year, but with everything we do, as Jimmy said earlier, $40,000 raised last year for charity. There will be a couple of ticketed portions to Jungle Jam this year. So again, if you just want to come, hang out with Bengals fans, see the 2 free presentations, you 100% can do that. If you would like to be part of the VIP session, very similar to what we did last year, that will be ticketed. And also the alumni autograph session, which was a huge success last year, will also be ticketed. Those will go on sale Wednesday at 10 a.m. So stay tuned for that. One other thing before you go into the players, Jimmy, Lisa, who was on here a little bit earlier, and the Houday ladies are also going to come on board. They were huge last year, helped run our silent auction, helped with goodie bags, helped with a whole behind-the-scenes aspect. Excited to partner with them once again and have them part of this event. So as you can imagine, there's a lot that goes behind the scenes and making this happen. There's so much legwork with just logistics, not even talking getting the players here, getting the players hotel, doing the timeline, making sure we have security, making sure we have ticket takers, making sure the vendors are set up. So it's quite the undertaking. We appreciate all the volunteers that partake in it. And again, 100% of the proceeds will go to charity. Last year was 5 different charities, of course, with the Joe Burrow Foundation being one of the bigger beneficiaries. Stay tuned as we announce those this year. And it's going to be a fluid situation all the way up with schedules, with players, with everything that's going on. But pretty impressive list. I believe there's already 5 new players that have committed that weren't at Jungle Jam last year. That'll be there this year. Kind of Jimmy handles that player portion. So, Jimmy, I'll let you talk about that aspect of things.
Yeah, so these are the players that have committed that say they will be there. And there are dozens and dozens of other ones we're waiting to hear back from. Now, remember, the ones that are out of town, we're flying them in. So you're ticketing your VIP tickets, which you're paying for there. That helps us, fly them in and put them up in hotels, the whole 9 yards. That's why it's important. When we did this last year, we were flying in players. But let's go through some of the players here. And Tom, I'll let you just kind of read off the names of these players as I go down the list. These are the ones that have committed, not the tentative ones. These are the ones that have committed.
Joe Walter, who has been a big supporter of everything we've done. And, other than Willie Anderson, the greatest right tackle in Bengals history. And I got to say, with all of our interviews, especially when we're off air, one of the funniest human beings I've ever been around.
And don't talk to him about kickers, by the way. He's not a big fan of kickers.
Leaping Lamar Parrish. He should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. With all the respect I have for those in the Bengals Ring of Honor, I don't know how he is not in the Bengals Ring of Honor, but it's monstrous that Leap wants to come up and visit with fans and experience it all. really looking forward to seeing him in person. Jim Breach never missed a kick in overtime, and he's never missed helping us out this year. I'll tell the story between now and July 19th ad nauseum. I was running back and forth last year in that heat, begging the guys to please take care of themselves, and if they'd been there over the time that they had promised us to go and take a look. And Jim Breach looked at me, and that line was still monstrous, and said, if they're willing to stand out here and wait for my autograph, I'm willing to sit here and sign for him. So just an absolute class guy. We're thrilled to have him there again. Talking about another guy that belongs in the Hall of Fame, the epitome of a guard, Max Montoya. He was a ton of fun too, and brought his whole family last year, which I thought was really, really neat. And Max will be back again this year. David Fulcher, great friend of the show, best strong safety of his era in the NFL, and a monstrous part of that Super Bowl 23 team. Will be back as last year.
No, Fulcher was not there last year. This will be his first.
Right, David was not. He couldn't make it.
He was in Orlando last year. He will be there this year.
Yeah. Joe Kelly, leader of that Super Bowl 23 team, fast, tough, mean linebacker, still a Cincinnati resident. Thrilled to have him this year. Kevin Casefaharn was a great guest that we had. It was great visiting with him, and he's been very anxious to get back down to Cincinnati, visit with some of his old teammates, and visit with old Bengals fans. In fact, he's very, very enthused. So it'll be great to see Kevin.
Yeah, he hated missing last year, but he's excited about it. He's got it on the schedule. He will be at Jungle Jam this year.
Ickey Woods, you saw Ickey all over the place last year. So I'm sure he will have his stand there promoting his charity, the Javante Woods Foundation. And, of course, one of the most memorable parts of Bengals history and such a big part of that Super Bowl 23 team. You can't say much more than, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the league. He belongs in Canton. He should have been there long ago. The voters look very foolish every time that he's not put in there. And we hope this next round our voices can even be louder. Not that we don't know how much difference we make, but we make the voice even louder and get some of our experts to weigh in even more. Ken Anderson belong in. Mohamed Sanu, some will say, is the greatest Bengals quarterback ever. But he looks like, is that the game against the Redskins there, Jimmy? Or
It looks like it might be, yeah.
Might be in Cleveland. But a clutch wide receiver during the early 2010s. Could always help move the chains. Tough guy, and somebody, again, very anxious to come into town and visit with everybody. Ted Karras, we're talking to a number of guys on the current team, but Ted Karras, unfortunately, last year could not make it, intended to, but will be there this year. And, for not spending his entire career in Cincinnati, it's amazing to me his love for this town, how he fits in with our fans, and his appreciation and knowledge of Bengals history. But it'll be great to interact with Ted. Shane Graham, sentimentally, I think for all of us, for the time he spent with us and talked with us, and not to mention all the clutch kicks that he made as a Bengal. He was a franchise player, only Pro Bowl kicker in franchise history. It'll be good to see Shane. Jeff Blake, the reason that we smiled in the 1990s, will bring his excitement and enthusiasm and maybe even a few friends back to see us in July. So it'll be great to see Jeff again. Pete's a lot of fun too. If we only had cameras behind the scenes when we're talking to Pete, but Pete will be down from Columbus, a beast of a back. He was fun to watch, and he's just as much fun to be around. So it'll be great to see Pete. Reggie Williams is coming this year. There was a small snafu last year that is more than fixed, and it sounds like Reggie, with all the enthusiasm he had as a player, will be up here with that same enthusiasm to visit with all of us come July.
Man, that's a pretty good list. Those are the players that have confirmed. I just want to repeat what James said earlier. They've confirmed they're going to be there. We got a long way to go till July. There's going to be, it's like James, it's going to be a fluid situation with players coming on and maybe potential players backing out. But those, as of today, are the players that have committed. We got a huge list of other players that are going to get back to us. Guys, as big as last year was, I fully expect us to have way more players there this year at this event.
100%. I'm going to answer Paul's question here. Why not the Cincinnati Convention Center? Valid question. As Lisa also put in the chat, as everyone knows, Duke Convention Center in Cincinnati is under construction. With that being said, a lot of places that rented out the Duke Convention Center have moved over to the Northern Kentucky Convention Center, so they simply didn't have the dates available. Newport on the Levee was more than generous to step up in our first year. Last year, the city of Newport has been excited to have Bengals fans from all over the country and internationally be there, and just simply logistics didn't work out. As you can imagine, there's 1,000 different puzzle pieces that need to go in. Obviously, we want to do it on a weekend when there's hotel rooms available for fans that want to come in, not only available, but at affordable cost. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and that's simply how we agreed upon the levy. And again, it will be free to attend if those just want to come and see fellow Bengals fans, see the vendors, see the two free components of Jungle Jam 2. And then as we talked about earlier, those that would like to purchase tickets for the ticketed side with all proceeds going to charity, those will be on sale on Wednesday at 10 a.m. We do have another guest in the waiting room. I don't know if you can see him, Jimmy. I feel like he hasn't been on the show in like forever, so I can.
Hold on before we pull him on. If you're still in the chat area here, just guess who's in the chat area. The first person that guesses it will pop him in here. So we'll wait. Just type in the chat area here. Who do you think is in the chat in the waiting room
While we're getting the guests to piggyback on James' thought there, another reason we have that date is there's nothing else going on in the city that day. FC is out of town. The Reds are out of town. And even though we bleed orange and black and are constantly worried about Austin's licking his wounds right now, we're constantly thinking about and worried about the Bengals 24/7, 365. We also are Cincinnatians. James, an honorary one, but he's got a place here too. And we wouldn't want to disrespect or step on the toes of one of our other Cincinnati franchises, no more than I'm sure they would want to step on the toes of the Bengals or Bengals fans.
Yep. And just we were this close to pulling it off at Paycor Stadium this year. Unfortunately, the date that we had, it's a week before Cincinnati Music Festival. That day that we needed it, they were going to be taking the entire field, putting the flooring down for the concert that was coming up Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the week after. So 13 or 14 different states we had fans coming in from last year. 13 different states. So when we make this announcement, make sure you lock up your hotel rooms on either side of the river there. But I think we have a lot of good guesses here, James.
A lot of good guesses.
The first one I saw, they had it right.
Yeah, she had it right. But all these former guests on the show.
I don't know if somebody's ever going to be disappointed.
You need to reschedule your family reunion, man. 2 weeks later. I want to come up for the 4th of July.
We got T. Higgins, T. Mom. We got Kenny Anderson, TJ Hushman's, Joe Walter, Zach Taylor, Tony the Tiger. Man.
Former guests. All right. Without further ado, our favorite Canadian is here.
I just disappointed like 30 people there, guessing everybody but me.
Man.
Where did you go? Did you hang up because I came on?
No, I'm gonna go get a drink. You're good.
Yeah, break.
Tell everybody what's been going on.
I would have came on sooner, but I can't afford the tariffs to hang out with you guys again. You guys want to charge me 40% to come on here. It's brutal.
Where you at work right now or what? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm at work. Just getting ready for. I got a bunch of events this week.
So
what's going on, Brian? Oh, Paul says, "Oh darn."
We had some big names that were popping up there. I was like, oh boy,
dude, great presentation, Tom. I just came on halfway through your PowerPoint presentation. That was great.
I put a lot of.
I usually fall asleep during the meetings of PowerPoints, but you kept me going. It was good.
Thank you. There he is. He's back. So.
Is He's the look. This is the
You're
producer.
on mute. You're on mute, James.
This is the guy you have taken over for me as producer. He can't even unmute his mic.
I'm part-time like you. Part-time like you.
But Jamie, you making it down for Jungle Jam this year?
No, because you guys booked the same weekend as my music festival again this year. It feels purposeful.
I am tired of scheduling around music festivals.
I can't move mine. I'm sorry. I can't move mine.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to put just Jamie face big instead.
Don't.
There's a question about piercings in here, Jamie. We're going on.
Oh, my God. Okay. I don't want to show because I don't like the earrings.
So hold on. Tell the story. You went to Mexico and you had some like.
Yeah. Well, I went to
Tequila?
Mexico. I was in Mexico, last week or the week before? I don't remember now. About a week or so ago. Went for a week with Aaron and Addie and I. Much needed vacation. But I don't I like resorts, but I like to go venture off in the culture, right? Go in the city. But Aaron and Addie were afraid to go. They thought they'd get murdered, right? Addie looks at me. She's 17. She goes, look at me. I'm pretty. I'll get killed. I can't go. So I went to the city by myself, ventured around, and found a tattoo shop. And I used to have my ears pierced, and then I had them out for a while, and then I couldn't get the rings back in, so I got them re-pierced. I got them re-pierced in Mexico. Everyone lost their freaking minds. Like I had some guy just pull out a needle off the street and do my ears. It was
a rusty needle.
Oh no! It was awesome. I mean, he didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Spanish, but it was pretty cool. Google Translate. My ears are still here.
How did you know how much to pay him?
Oh, I understood that part. Yeah, I understood that part. It cost me 1,000 pesos. Like 70 bucks.
All right, so Jamie, the Bengals play in Spain this year. That's the word. It looks
so
like.
Here's the thing. So you guys know Michael Johnston, my buddy, comes down a couple times. Big Dolphins fan. So we were super excited to see that they were playing in Miami this year. So we had planned as soon as the schedule came out, we're to plan a week in Miami, go down together, and it's going to be in Spain now.
Well, I mean, you just got to go to Spain.
Looking forward to Miami, to be honest with you.
Canadians were boycotting the U.S. anyways. You guys aren't boycotting Spain.
You know what? That's true. I will go to Spain.
So, Jamie, we asked Tony Pike these questions. What's your thoughts on Bengals free agency 2 weeks in?
Well, okay, so I don't want to get tweeted at by T's mom. I like T. Higgins. I love his mom, too. I met her at the tailgate a bunch of times. I'm glad that we signed. I'm happy with Chase and Higgins being together on this team. I could have went either way with T. Higgins. I think if we traded him for a pick and used it to shore up the defense, offensive line, that wouldn't be a bad thing. But I'm super happy that, one, we finally have a situation where our quarterback spoke up about what he wants to see, and we actually did it for him. So Burrow's happy. I like that. If T stays healthy, obviously Chase, I'm happy. I hope we get the Trey Hendrickson deal done. I really hope we get Trey Hendrickson back. But yeah, man, I don't know. O-line still worries me. Defense still worries me. But, I mean, if we can score 40 points a game and only give up 38, it's not the strategy I'd go for, but we'll see what happens.
Tom, how excited are you? Your BFF Jamie is back here with us. But even if it's for a quarter of the show.
I just want to clarify, I love that we have T. Higgins. Don't get me wrong. I love that we have T. Higgins.
No, Mama T's pissed.
I don't want to be. I love Mama T. She's great. And I'm not really even on Twitter anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I love Mama T. It could have went either way for me, but I'm happy that he's here. I just hope he stays healthy. When he's healthy and he's on the field, we win.
True story.
We win.
To answer your question, James, this is, Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, Mike Brown, Elizabeth Blackbird, Katie Blackbird. No, this tops them all. This is our award winner. This just became the episode we submit for the Grammys.
Next year. That's thanks, Tom. I miss you too, buddy.
To the guy that just hates the offseason, doesn't care about the draft, and he pops on.
Okay, that's not true.
Stay away from the draft.
Okay, look, I don't like the offseason. That's true. I don't get the mock draft thing. It's like you guys. This is an American thing, okay? We don't do. We have the CFL. We don't do mock drafts.
We have a Canadian CFL
You
mock.
know what we do? Whoever doesn't get picked in the NFL, that's who we have left to play in our. That's how we do our mock drafts. No, I don't get the mock draft. Like, I don't get the March Madness thing either. You put all this work in, and after the first game, your whole bracket's gone. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I get excited when we have the first pick, and we're arguing over it's going to be Burrow or Sewell, whatever the frig his name was. So that was exciting, and that's actually how we started the show, doing a draft show.
And that's why you guys got 40% tariffs now. Damn it!
But Sewell was the second year. It was Sewell or Jamar Chase, not Sewell or Burrow. See, this is why we just
I don't
leave you off in the offseason right here.
Obviously, I'm following the signings and making see what the team's doing, but I don't. Lisa, this is I bought this hoodie last time I was down. I can't wear this because it's white. I get shit all over this thing. Every time I go out somewhere, I get something on this. James knows about me and white clothing.
You won't eat chicken wings?
Dude, I will eat chicken wings.
Chili with that.
I will eat chicken wings.
Let me scroll back up here to 1 second because he was in here earlier and he brings the jacket to his seats now for about the time you spilled barbecue sauce all over him at the game.
That John?
Yeah.
I felt bad about that. Yeah, that was.
Don't take Jamie to knockback Nats with a white hoodie on.
I love John. Sorry, John. I hope that came out.
I don't even know why he's your favorite Canadian when you spill stuff all over.
I'm the only Canadian he probably knows. No, I'm sorry I haven't been on. I know you guys. I'm kudos to you guys keep this going. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I mean, we signed Chase and Higgins now. What are you guys even talking about anymore?
Oh God!
Jungle Jam. Yeah, it's good.
All right, we're over our 60 minutes, Jimmy.
We would have been done if it weren't for Jamie coming on.
Screwed us up.
Sorry, guys.
Now let's go close it out, guys. We appreciate you being with us tonight. Remember, keep an eye out for the Jungle Jam tickets going live Wednesday. There's going to be 2 VIP sessions. Make sure you read up on that when we send that out.
Jimmy, where does everybody look for that? Look for that?
So there'll be a couple things. You'll see it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll also probably at some point soon send out that email. We have an email distribution list of about 3,000 or 4,000 fans as well. But social media is where you'll see it here Wednesday at some point Wednesday. Make sure you be part of it this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be bigger and better than it even was the last 4 years. So we're excited about that. Next week, Takia Spike's on, Jamie. Make sure you're here for that one, right? Takia Spike's going to be with us next week. So looking forward to that. But let's keep an eye on free agency, and we will see you guys next Tuesday, guys. Next Sunday night. My bad. Who day, everybody?
Sunday.